Welcome to Thinking is Contagious. Very thankful. Got a new subscriber today from Germany, and turned me on to a writing that I was not familiar with, and it was written in it was published in 1984, and it was written by a former Russian spy who defected to the U.S. Embassy in Athens, Greece in 1970 by the name of Yuri Bezmenov. And this was a love letter to America, as he titled it, published in 1984. Mr. Bezmenov was a KGB agent, a master of political subversion, psychological warfare, and propaganda. That was his profession. He wrote this love letter to America, under a pen name, Thomas David Schulman, for obvious reasons. He details in this letter, he tries to point out to America what's going on, where Russia's coming from, where Marxist-Leninist theory is coming from. And he details a multi-decade. I'm going to be looking down and reading on some notes that I've made, so please, bear with me. But details a multi-decade-long plan to collapse America from within, and fully explained how, by design, the U.S. has become more divided than at any time since the Civil War. How attacks on the nation's culture are critical, and that the greatest threat to America is not China or Russia, but it's from within. And then there's a quote. For me, he's addressing America, he's quoting, "For me, you are the people who created the most unique nation, society in the history of mankind. By no means perfect, but by far the most free, affluent, and just in today's world." He goes on to say, "I am not alone in this." He says, there's people all over the earth, whether they praise or criticize America, because there are a lot who criticize. He says, they're all fully aware that America is the world's only hope for survival and the last stronghold for freedom on the face of the earth. Again, coming from a Russian spy, trained KGB agent with the objective to destroy what is America, what is capitalism, what it stands for. He asks what we've talked about here on this program before to prove his point. He says, if America were not indeed all these things, would we not see people leaving America, trying to get into Cuba? Would we not see people in Hong Kong and Taiwan trying to sneak into China? Would we not see people fleeing the United States, trying to get into Venezuela? These are all points that we brought up, and I think they play well into the narrative of what we're talking about today. He says that the bottom line is that this attempt to gain control, it's not about ideology. It's not about bringing communism or socialism to America. It's about power. It's about power and control over the American people. It's about power and control over the means of production. The most productive country in the world, they obviously want to control the means of production because it enriches them, not only power-wise, but also monetarily. He says, "My dear friends," this is a quote again, "I think you are in trouble. Whether you believe it or not, you are at a point that you may lose the war very soon, together with your affluence and freedoms, unless you start to defend yourselves." He says, "The final stage of communist aggression, military confrontation, has little to do with rivalry for territory or geopolitical gain in order to free and liberate. Communist world aggression is a total effort against humanity and human civilization. So it's an affront on humanity and human civilization. The driving force is ideology," he says. "Integral part of this war, the key component is ideological subversion, i.e., the process of changing the perception of reality in the minds of millions of people all over the world. The art of duping the masses into doing things to their own disadvantage and making them believe it is the will of the people is as ancient as mankind itself. To achieve the desired effort, the subverter must first make idiots of normal people and divide them before turning them into homogenized." It's a key word in this country today, homogenized. Under the guise of diversity. Let's look at the word homogenized. Mass of useful and united idiots. Very interesting. Creating the army of the useful idiots. 500 BC, the Chinese military strategist Sun Tzu formulated the principles of political subversion, still being followed by Marxists, socialist progressives today. Socialist progressives, another key word in our country today. The left, the progressives, the socialists of this world, the Bernie Sanders, the AOCs of this world, socialist, okay? Sun Tzu's game plan, strategy, basically, is you start by cover with ridicule all valid traditions in your opponent's country. Traditions, cover and ridicule the traditions, the culture, the history of your opponent's country. Step 2, implicate their leaders in criminal affairs. Turn them over to the scorn of the population. Step 3, disrupt the work of the government by any means possible. Disrupt the work of the government by any means possible. I think you see that pretty clearly with our government today. From within, Senate, Congress, how complete disruption. Do not shun the aid. Listen to this one. Do not shun the aid of the lowest and most despicable individuals of your opponent's country. In other words, accept the aids of criminals, looting, pillaging. Accept their aid to achieve the objective. Spread divisiveness and dispute among the citizens. Turn young against old. Does all this sound familiar? Does all this sound familiar? Bezmenov explains that America is being subverted by design to merge the U.S. into a Marxist socialist world government under UN control by the globalist elite. Again, the most productive, most affluent country in the world. The objective is to seize those means of production, both for financial gain, but also for power. And that's what the objective is. And in order to do this, Bezmenov breaks it down. There's 4 different stages. First one is the demoralization. This is a 15 to 20 year phase, and the key component, take over public education system, in which an entire generation can then be exposed to the ideology of the enemy. The primary goal is to destroy existing cultural values by blurring the lines between good and evil, law and order, capitalism and socialism, legal versus illegal, illegal immigration versus legal immigration, organized religion and secular humanism, and the role of the sexes, as well as destroy the family unit. Sound familiar? I think we're in the throes. We've been in the throes of that for the last 25 years. Step 2 is the demoralization. The destabilization. And this makes use of what he calls sleepers. Those are indoctrinated in the demoralization phase. They've been indoctrinated in the demoralization phase 1, and they appear out of nowhere and rise in power in the government. Barack Obama, I think, is a perfect example of that. Came out of nowhere, correct? These sleepers begin to seize power, and those in academia, media, and law begin to promote the Marxist-Leninist influences on which they built their power. Those in military leadership positions are selected relative to their pro-globalist views. Globalist, because, and again, it's something that we're fighting, taken away from America, pro-globalist views. The government begins to involve itself in the economy by intervening in markets and corporate management, like the 2008 financial crisis, like what's happening today even. Okay, I'm not eliminating the current administration from having a part in this, okay, wittingly or unwittingly, but it is happening today. The third phase is crisis, and after the government has seized power and control of the economy, the markets, the media, academia, police surveillance, and state begins to rapidly roll out in advance of the crisis trigger. So obviously this crisis is critical. Is the crisis this pandemic? I don't know. And then the final stage being normalization, which is, okay, let's settle into the new socialist world that we're going to live in. We can't let these things happen. We have to be aware of these things. And I would ask you to look this up yourself, read the Love Letter to America, educate yourself on it, and see what your thoughts are. I think it's pretty scary. Again, I'm trying to cut this down because, there's a time limit on what we can talk about here, but I want to expose you to it and make you aware of it. I want to thank my subscriber, German subscriber, gentleman or woman, I'm not sure who it is, from Germany, for enlightening me on this. It's much appreciated. You've helped me tremendously further my education, and I'm indebted to you. God bless you. Let's keep moving forward. And again, look it up. Yuri Bezmenov, Love Letter to America. Thank you.